How's everybody's days going? Hope you all are doing good. The manga in discussion today is a manga that I don't really see anyone talk about very often. And even the anime didn't really got that much recognition. Like, there's some stories out there that go under the radar in terms of mainstream popularity. Even when a lot of the fan base of that community are saying that the story is good, but is still unable to get past a certain threshold to garner enough attention. Like, an example I have of that is like The Breaker. It's made from Korea, so it's a manhwa, but it still has the manga black and white format. Anyways, but not many people talk about this manga anymore, despite it being one of the greatest martial arts manga of all time. But I think there is still some merit when a series is not really mainstream, because I think that's what would make something more personal to you. Like, you find this super obscure manga that no one knows yet anyone who has read it says it's like one of the best. Before that, if you enjoy what I do, please consider liking and subscribing. I am trying my best to be a full-fledged YouTuber one day, so hopefully you guys can help me out. The manga I have today isn't at that level of obscurity. I think this manga has a really strong fan base that I still consider to be popular, but not at the level of like mainstream, I guess. With around 300 or so chapters, this manga is not really showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon, and I'm still not bored with it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you saw the thumbnail, this manga is named Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. I talked about this manga a little bit during my last video about the 26 different manga, so check that video out after this one. To briefly introduce this manga, this starts with our main character Iruma being abused by his abusive parents, where since Iruma was a kid, Iruma, as the kid he is, continued to obey his parents, begging for their love and approval, but to no avail. And just where it couldn't get any worse, his parents sold him to a demon. That's the first event that transpired within this manga, but it takes a twist in the story, which I think that's what made this manga feel much more special. When you first start reading this, you see it as more of a comedy. The demon that Iruma meets just suddenly asks him to be his grandson, and Iruma starts going to school in this demon world, I guess. The whole premise is based around hiding his identity from the demons, or he might get in, I guess. And we really get to see how he acclimates and adapts to this world and the rules within that world. For the first few chapters, you obviously get introduced to the main cast and their personalities, with the demon who adopted him being a lovable, silly grandpa who just wants the best for Iruma. And you get to see the wholesomeness even more as you go through the story. There's the two eventual best friends of Iruma, Asmodeus and Clara. Asmodeus being all high and mighty, initially as any self-proclaimed powerful demon, but after one German suplex, he now serves Iruma as some sort of assistant, humbling him after that. Well, Iruma treats Asmodeus as his friend. Next up, Clara, firstly introduced as a weird character who can magically create anything from her pockets. She realizes that Iruma won't take advantage of her powers in order to become her friend. He just genuinely loves being friends with her. So the trio is formed. This manga has probably one of the best casts within its genre. Like, the characters are what makes this manga truly unforgettable. Every character feels fresh and well thought out, even the ones who rarely appear in chapters. As the story progresses, we get Iruma experience the demon school life, trying to blend in, and eventually he ends in the class known as the Misfits, where I think where the start of this fun ride begins. It may start off slow to a lot of people, but the elements that this series have shown makes this manga that much more interesting. To start off is the really good world building. We obviously start with the school, but we get to know about the ranking system where each demon have their own respective ranks and symbolizing their status or strength. We get to learn about the various bloodline abilities that each demon family, in which case it does introduce us to different types of families. There is also a plot about the missing demon king and the politics within that system that made this manga much more intriguing to read. I never really got bored with how the world is slowly getting introduced, even when there was a part where the demons apparently have an idol culture like in Japan, but there's surprisingly a logical reason as to why there is one, where it is interesting and funny at the same time. This series also has a focus on it being a light-hearted comedy, but it does it in a way where the comedy aspects doesn't take away from the more serious moments. Like, it knows when to showcase the comedic relief versus when not to showcase it. They're not exactly laugh out loud funny, but just visually entertaining when you read it. With the main premise of the story in which Iruma experiences the demon world, hiding his true identity as a human and blending in. With the premise being simple, I think it's interesting how that incorporates it really well into the story. Like, they talk about the nature of the demons living in this world. They are very selfish and greedy. They only look out for themselves. They are very competitive and chaotic. But with Iruma added to the picture, something changed within the school itself and eventually probably in society. Like, Iruma in this manga is portrayed as someone who is very caring of others. He's the very opposite of the demons. So as Iruma becomes an influence It's really interesting how over time, the demons become very human-like because of that influence, and yet on the opposite side, it really contrasts that because of the world that Iruma lives in, he himself becomes more demon-like to some degree, which becomes a really good parallel when telling the story. Like in the Royal One arc. The Royal One arc is probably the fanbase most loved arc due to it completely setting a new standard in terms of telling a story, adding a whole new different factor in Iruma's character. Without spoiling too much, I will just say that this arc really delved into the unusual approach to ambition, I guess. Normally, as I said before, the demons in the series embody competitive and chaotic selfish traits. However, in this arc, Iruma achieved a goal not through a typical demon behavior like violence or intimidation, but rather through like cooperation, which is very non-demon-like. This is also the arc where the cast truly becomes a part of the world, and saying that we are going to see them more often. I love this manga. This manga really deserves more recognition, like even as something as simple as the art. Like it's really good, very stylized and unique.
We are just getting started. Mighty Monty pump it up. Yeah, Bobby, 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 Bobby Lou. Yeah, Bobby, 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 Bobby Lou.
I started reading the manga for its lighthearted journey, and now I continue to read it for its cleverly laid out world and story. And that's only in the first few arcs of the manga, and I'm really excited for what's next. That's it for now, everyone. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. I'll try uploading as much as I can, so please like, comment, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Have a wonderful day.